Okay, perfect. So, yeah, so my background is, so I'm a medical doctor, as Orzuma mentioned. Uh, I did my MBBS from a place in Bombay called Sion Hospital. It's, I don't know what the demographics is from of people who are here, but Sion Hospital is basically similar to what Safdarjung Hospital is in Delhi. So it's like a place I hope none of you ever have to go to. But I studied there and I was there for 6 years. Following which like every MBBS person in India, I took a drop year to prepare for my MD exams. And I was kind of lucky in that my family runs a diagnostics chain in Delhi. So, and my house was right over the diagnostics of like over our main center at that time. And while I was studying, I started getting involved thoda in the business side of things, designing brochures and implementing some IT systems and stuff like that. And gradually, at the end of my 1 year drop year, even though I was getting MD radiology, which is what I had wanted, I decided to not go ahead with that, and then to switch to the management side instead. So then I worked for 4 years at our company. It's called Mahajan Imaging. We do all sorts of MRI scans, CT scans, PET scans, like stuff. I hope none of you ever never needs. And so while I was doing that, I think the year was 2012 or something, that I realized ki, okay, there is a possibility to do an MBA also. And I'm not kidding when I say this, but in 2012 I couldn't even spell Harvard, let alone think of going to a B school in the US. Wharton ka to I hadn't even heard the name. So so that was what things were, and then I started looking around. I started speaking to people, trying to understand, how does one apply to B school, what is the GMAT, what is the full form of the GMAT. And then around mid 2012, I found out about Jamboree, and I actually joined the New Friends Colony branch. I joined I think it was some 4 months ka course or something, but I only went for 1 month. Sorry, Orzuma. But because like working along with doing Jamboree is a little hard. But still, it set a great foundation, and it put me in a cohort of people who were in the same situation as me. So that was quite cool. And then, as I was working on growing the company in January 2013, I gave the GMAT, luckily got a decent enough score. By December 2013, I had applied. I was a round one applicant, and I'm happy to talk about round one versus round two and all that. But basically, I got into Wharton, I still remember, on the 17th of December 2013. And then after that, went in July 2014, had a blast for 2 years, did a summer internship with a consulting firm in New York, then went through the whole conundrum of should I come back to India immediately or should I come back after a few years. Decided to come back to India immediately, and I can talk about that also, although that's a little bit far ahead. But came back to India last year in June, and have been working on growing the company ever since. So that's kind of my background. At Wharton, I did two majors. I majored in healthcare management and finance. Uh, and yeah, so otherwise I can just keep talking. So also I'd rather that you ask again.
Right. No, just I would like to go back a little. So, why did you decide to do an MBA? I mean, you are a doctor.
Oh,
You
yes.
could have, yeah.
Exactly. So I think the thing was, so there are couple of reasons, right? One very major reason was that I had zero management education, and the only business that I had ever managed was like my own. And even in our business, even though my parents were completely hands-on, they also had zero management education. So there was clearly the learning part of it, right? Like it wasn't like I wanted to switch my career, or like I had been doing consulting for 5 years and I was completely थक गया था consulting कर करके या कुछ ऐसा कुछ नहीं था. It was primarily around the learning. And then, there is the whole credibility factor, right? If you are a business person in India, right, or if you are a doctor in India, and I was trying to be both. So an MBBS doctor is not respected by doctors at all,
Right.
and that is what I was. Secondly, an MBBS doctor is, or a doctor in general, is not respected too much by business people either. So I was like, yeah, if I have to do this for the next 15, 20 years of my life, I should, at least have some credibility. And then I felt that, clearly going to a B school. And then as I started speaking to people, it started resonating with me that gives you a lot of perspective, like, it enables you to think at a high level and all that. So that's how I went forward with my plans of doing the MBA. Obviously, friends also help. So one of my closest friends from MBBS, my roommate actually, so he went to Stanford the same year I went to Wharton. He also went for an MBA, and we actually joined Jamboree also together and all that. So it was having that one person confirm all your thoughts and beliefs is very helpful, and I think that's also one of the key reasons why I could take that plunge.
So, when you decided to do an MBA, when you felt the need for an MBA, then the next decisions, or did you go through the next decision point of whether to do it in India, or whether to go the CAT way or the GMAT way?
Yeah. Yes, and again, there were a few reasons why I decided to go the GMAT way and why I decided to go to the US in particular. So the first was India versus abroad. Now, if any of you guys, and this is a little bit of a personal thing, but if any of you guys Google our company's name, Mahajan Imaging, you will realize that my dad, our founder, he's like a huge doctor. He's like, accomplished a lot basically. So if I was to go to B school in India, there was always the chance of me having to, go through the whole system of कि अच्छा आप डॉक्टर महाजन के बेटे हैं, like that thing. Whereas going outside of the country, you are completely cut off. Like I had to go and introduce myself in a very different way in the US. So that was, I think. Ozoma, can you?
Yeah, so what you said, so a lot of people would actually want that advantage. So am I right in assuming that you didn't actually want to, take advantage of the name that your father had already built?
I think so, maybe, but I think our generation is a little bit more independent in that today, your family connections or like your name, like it's much harder to leverage those things. Today people are very result driven, and also you're able to tell, okay, this person has done real work versus this person is just leveraging off of somebody else's work.
Right,
so
right.
I think so that was one of my major reasons. Then the other very very major reason was कि CAT में तो मेरी लग जाती, like I don't think I would and this is a thing that is across all B schools, like at least HBS, Stanford, Wharton, every Indian person believes that they could not have gone into IIM APC simply because the process is so much more stringent, and it's so, you have, if you look at number of applicants, and I'm sure Jamboree would have some kind of figures around that, those applicants far trump the number of applicants that apply to US B schools. So I think these were a couple of reasons.
Right.
Then one very major reason that I think you guys should definitely think about is whether you want to go for a university in the US or if you want to go to a B school in Europe or INSEAD in France or something, because what the US offers is a university environment. What the schools in Europe, and my own brother is studying in Europe right now, so I know it even more, is not a university environment but a very cool B school environment. So I can talk about
right. Actually, right. So that was going to be my next thing, that once you decided to that go the outside India way, so when you started off with your GMAT preparation, of course, but when you were looking for universities, were you looking for universities only in the US, or I mean, there are like thousands of universities outside India. So how did you shortlist? What factors were you taking into consideration while making that list of 4 or 5 colleges that you finally applied to?
So that is a very good question, and I'll give a very short answer because I can, like I said, just keep talking, and I'd rather answer the participants' questions. But for the longest time, my dream school was LBS in London. I think 2012 was also the year when it had consistently come as the #1 B school across a number of
Right.
magazines and all that.
Right.
So LBS had become my dream school. But what also happened was November. So every November there is a radiology conference that happens in Chicago that I used to go for. I still go for it. So I went to the US in November, and I had gone to MIT to meet some research collaborators that I had. And when I met them, I stayed with my cousin who was doing his MBA at MIT Sloan.
Okay.
Now, the thing is that I went for dinner with some of his friends, and there were some 6, 7 of us, and 2 of them were doing PhD in nanomaterials. 2 of them were, like MIT Sloan people, and 2 were like, one was from, Mass General ka medical school, and, another person was like some design school or something. So, that was when it struck me, that, yeah, if I go to a university in the US,
Right.
then, I have access to people who are doing all sorts of cutting edge, pure play scientific stuff,
Right.
right? If I go to LBS, or if I go to INSEAD, or if I go to IESC, IE, all these B schools that are absolutely amazing, what they lack is this pure scientific connect that is like on campus. Like, when I went to Wharton, I would walk across the nanosciences building every day. Right, so I could go in any time and speak to anybody on anything. So I think that is how I narrowed down to the US in general, because they have like a very strong university system in most places.
Yep.
But that was that part. Now, how I got down to the 4 or 5 places that I applied to, that was very simple. I applied to HBS, Stanford, Wharton, MIT, and Kellogg.
Right.
And I think that those are schools that are generally on everybody's list.
Okay.
So that was kind of my approach.
So, so I'm sure you did your research on Wharton, before deciding to take that offer up. But because there's tons of information available on the Wharton website, So, but when you finally landed there, did you find something that you were still surprised by?
Yeah. So the main thing is, Arzuma, that once you get in, you actually stop looking at all the websites.
True.
And when you're looking at all the websites and all, for like writing an essay or something, you're looking at from it very differently. But what I can say that, and I tell this to everybody, that one thing I did not expect was for people to be as nice as they were.
Okay.
So, and this is it is very, very visible that Wharton has taken a clear stance on moving away from a hardcore cutthroat finance school to a more collaborative, happy kind of school, which is also evident from their interview process, right? It's the only B school in the US that has a group discussion, and like in terms of time, like group discussion takes up like 75% of your interview time, right? So that was one thing I did not expect. Then the other thing that the Wharton website does not talk about is the University of Pennsylvania, right? Like UPenn is the second oldest university in the US or something like that. Like it started in 1750 or some, like we were probably, I think, building the Taj Mahal or something like that. so it comes with that history, and there's like a million things. There's a design school, there's a music school, there's a medical school, there's
engineering,
a architecture school, there's engineering. So those are things that you don't particularly find on the Wharton website. So what I would urge all of you guys there is to go through the Penn website as well and do it for all the schools that you apply to. If you apply to Kellogg, then go through the Northwestern website. If you apply to HBS, go through Harvard University. See
Right.
what's happening there, because you know you are part of that community as well.
Yeah, I think that shows up in your network also. I mean that the whole university thing, that adds to your network, as you said. That whether it's the nanoscience, people, or maybe the bioengineering people for that matter, or for the somebody who wants to do, let's say, IT. So for them, the whole engineering aspect. So it builds your network is not limited only to fellow MBA students. Your network expands to a yeah. So yes, I that's one thing I like about the USB schools, because of that whole university environment, that it's not just just like in India, you have got the IIMs, all they do is management. There is no engineering aspect, there is no liberal arts aspect, there is nothing. It's just management. So overall, probably when you grow as a person and professional, I think it helps to be in an university environment where you can, and it also gives you opportunities to probably explore other majors. Something majors that you probably don't even know of, or courses that you probably don't even know of. So about the Wharton, now coming to the specific Wharton MBA program that you did, what are some of the highlights, or what are some of the things that you think prospective applicants should know about?
That's a very, very broad question. See, from a prospective applicant perspective, right? And again, it depends on how deep you are into the situation right now. But there's a few things that I feel you should talk about from your background, right? Like, there are certain things that happen at all B schools, right? There is teamwork at all B schools. There is, awesome professors. There is recruiting. All these things happen. But there's a few things that I think you should talk about, and this is more from an essay perspective than like a pre-essay situation. But so Wharton is a very, 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 very quantitative school. In fact, that could be one of the things I was surprised by as well. That the fact that the number one the number one course during my second year at Wharton, and this is an MBA course, was Intro to R. Right, so, and R is like, if for those of you who don't know, it is like a data analytics statistical package. It's basically a computer programming language.
Right.
So so talk about anything quantitative that you've done. That is also their differentiator from HBS and Kellogg and Columbia, wherein there were instances in class where a professor, like, we learned differentiation and integration in economics. Like, nobody at an MBA school does that, right? But they were like, "Nahin, we are a quant school. Knowledge is everything. So you need to know this." So in terms of math ability, try to demonstrate that. Try to demonstrate any kind of analytics work that you've done, because they are a very data-heavy school. There is this whole concept of data-driven decision making, wherein our marketing professor, and he was like one of the greatest professors on the planet, a guy called Jagmohan Raju. He in class he said that if you come up to me and say that your container for whatever product should be green and not red because you like green more than you like red, he said, then this is not the school for you. So so basically it's a very data heavy, very quantitative, very decision making, action oriented school. And that was something that I feel today when I speak to my friends from other schools, that because by and large people who go into each school and people who come out are the same. There are just these minor tweaks in your thinking that the school is able to do.
Right.
So yeah, so this would be a couple of things that I would write about. Data driven, definitely, then you have to write about it.
So if you don't mind sharing, what was your GMAT score?
So I got a 740.
Okay. So in your class, how many Indian students were there, and what was the average profile? What kind of GMAT scores did they have? What kind of pre-MBA work experience background did they come from?
So yeah, I don't think I'll be able to comment on the GMAT score because,
Okay.
like I
That
said,
you-
once you get in,
Right,
you know,
right,
you
right.
stop caring about that.
Right, and they would not have
So,
shared, right? Okay.
Yeah, the Darshan has asked, do they look at GRE? Yes, you can apply with
Yeah.
GRE as well.
Yeah.
I think there is a conversion matrix
Yeah.
or something.
On the
So,
website.
on the chat.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean the conversion
so-
template is on the GRE website.
Okay.
Right.
So, so I think, but in terms of otherwise, in terms, so I don't even know my best friend's GMAT score. Like,
Sure.
I don't think he knows mine either. But from a background perspective, see, we need to look at who a business school recruits, right? A business school wants somebody who has a high probability of success in the future, so that वो आगे जाके school का नाम बढ़ाए.
Right.
Right? It is a very simple thing. Now, if you work at a McKinsey, BCG, Bain, AT Kearney, Strategy and Deloitte, PwC, whatever, you know, one of the big consulting firms, you naturally have a higher chance of getting into a B school.
Right.
Wharton in particular, I won't say because, you know, it's a very random process also.
Hmm.
But so there is a certain cohort of people. So we had about 45-50 Indian passport holders in my batch.
Okay.
And I would say at least 15 of them were ex-consulting.
Okay.
Maybe 5 to 10 were ex-banking.
Hmm.
Maybe, you know, 5 to 10 were ex-retail like PNG or any other thing. TMG, HUL, ITC, all that. And then, you know, there were maybe 5-10 people who were like me, who were like, you know, completely different kind of profile. You know, somebody's worked at the World Bank, somebody's worked at Teach for India, somebody's worked at like, you know, some other, you know, job. And then, you know, there is like engineer, non-engineer kind of breakdown.
Right.
Engineer again, because, you know, most of these companies that I talked about like to recruit from the IITs or the NITs and all that. So that is the typical profile. But then again, like, it doesn't mean that if you don't have a typical profile, you won't get in, right? I got in.
Right. So were you the only Indian doctor?
In my batch, yeah, I was the only Indian.
So Sarang has this question that, you know, how do you get around average CGPA? Like I have a 8 and I have a decent GMAT score, but is that enough? You know, so again, you know, I think Sarang, when you say I have a 8, I have no idea whether your academic record is good or bad. I need to know what degree, what college, etc., etc. So, you know, I mean, you don't have to, you know, and 8 is not bad, you know, 8 out of 10 is, you know, is decent. And if you have now decent GMAT score is, so what do you consider to be a decent GMAT score? From my experience, any top 10 business school, you know, anything below 700 is not a, you know, just purely because Indian students score very high. So just do feel free to correct me, Vidur. So I think if you are applying to Wharton, an minimum 700 that is absolute minimum that they should target, right?
Yeah, I don't know. So the thing is that, you know, I know people who've gotten into Stanford with a 550. So it's, you know, having a 700 plus is a good thing, but if you don't have a 700, like if you had a 650 but you started a company and you have 50 crore rupees of revenue today, I don't think any school is going to say no to you.
Right. But like, you know, average profile, let's say, you know, yeah. Like, you know, but average profile, you know.
I have very strong views on this, simply because, you know, as Indian people, we are so focused on the GMAT कि मतलब हमें ये लगता है कि GMAT में अच्छे नंबर आ गए तो then हो गया, या GMAT में अच्छे नंबर नहीं आए तो नहीं हुआ. नहीं, it doesn't work like that. Like, and we are used to a very objective admissions entry process. Right? Like, for example, the entire world knows that Wharton is ranked higher than Kellogg, right? So theoretically, anybody who gets into Wharton should get into Kellogg also. I am an example of somebody who did not get into Kellogg but got into Wharton.
True.
You know how many Indian people were applying,
Yeah, all
what
of those.
they want out of the class,
Yeah.
blah blah blah. So there's so many reasons. The thing is 700 plus is safe,
Yep.
but if it is say already August
Hmm.
and you have just got a 670, apply, देखी जाएगी यार.
Right.
मतलब round one apply करो. And if there are also people who are not good at taking tests.
Yeah, yeah.
So if you're not good at taking a test, then you can't help it, right? That doesn't mean.
But there should be then something else in the there should be then something else in the profile that is that has to be good, right? That has to be stand out. You know, at least there should be some aspect of the profile that has to be stand out.
Probability of future success.
Yep, yep.
Probability of future success. That is the simple thing you should look at when you
assess your own
about
profile.
either yourself,
Yeah.
or if you're giving
Right.
advice to a friend or anybody.
Right.
I think that's like one thing you should look at. But the GMAT is in. Okay, it is good to have a 760. Like Sarang has a 760, very nice. Now
Yeah.
you can, based on 760, you can apply to all the B schools and
Right.
you can see. होता है तो अच्छी बात है, नहीं होता है
Yeah.
तो आगे अप्लाई करो यार.
So Sarang, your I think first question was how do you get around average? So I think if you have a 8 out of 10 from PEC Chandigarh is a very good college, you know, very good engineering college. Plus you have a 760. So
Yeah.
I think you have your academics and GMAT covered. Now look at the rest of your profile, you know. So you are not going to get rejected because of your GMAT score or because of your academics. So but the rest of the profile is important, of course, you know. So Sunanda's question is how much work experience students generally had at Wharton?
So I would say to
yeah.
that Sunanda ki kindly Google.
Yeah, I know. I actually see the class profiles are there on the website. You know, so they say all of the business school will say 5 to 5.5 years. That's what they would say. But that doesn't mean that you need 5. I have students who have gotten with less than 1 year of work experience. Also depends on what did you do, what's the quality of it. You know, so. Well, you know, the work experience is not just about quantity, you know, it has to do with quality also. So as Vidur said, if you were running your company, you know, so your 1 year would be, you know, is better than somebody who is, you know, doing coding for 3 years. So you have to look look at these parameters from different different aspects.
What I would say to that also is, it is not, and guys, like I know I was in the same situation where I am trying to judge what is my probability of getting in and all that. The thing is, that is not your job to figure out. That is the school's. Your job is to apply. So rather than thinking about like Sarang, like 8 is 3.2 there, but the average is 3.6. Koi baat nahi yaar. That doesn't mean that you are going to put a
average
stop on your career because
right.
you didn't study. You were watching whatever house or something before one exam at Peck, and uski wajah se like now your career is going to stop. Right? It doesn't work like that. So guys, I know this is something you only learn once you've been there. But I am going to push all of you, and I know I have like half an hour left, but during that half an hour I am going to convince all of you to just apply. Apply करो यार, कोई बात नहीं हुआ, दूसरे में करो.
Right, I agree.
क्या बड़ी बात है?
So Sarang, please focus on the word average. If average is 3.6, there were people with 3.2, 3, 3.1 who got in, right? So if and your GMAT score is far above the average. So on some parameters we will be above the class average. On some parameters you might be below average. That does not mean that you don't stand a chance. It will all boil down to how you put in your application. And if you already have your GMAT score, Sarang, so I think you should just get to writing the essays and apply in round 1. You are in a great position to apply in round 1. You have enough time to now review your essays, fine tune them, etc., etc. So actually Verena has this really interesting question which I was also meaning to ask you. So how does the internship and placement process at Wharton work?
So good question, and I don't think you find that on the website.
Yeah.
So, and this is true for all B schools by and large, that there are two types of placement processes. One is what is called established recruiting. At least this was the terminology that Wharton used. established recruiting, and then there is enterprise recruiting. What established means that there are a set of companies that are going to come to campus every year. They are going to take a set of students, and जैसे I think India में भी होता है, there is on-campus recruiting and then there is off-campus recruiting. So in the same way, there is on-campus internship and placement process, and there is off-campus. Now, on-campus is very easy, and the school has dedicated people that it pays like hundreds of thousands of dollars to just to ensure that you get a job. And the on-campus recruiting is more like consulting, banking, some retail, some international companies, little bit of private equity, venture capital kind of stuff. But by and large, it's mostly consulting and banking, and that is very it is easy to navigate, because let's say you reach campus in August or sometime July and August beginning, 2-3 months you have fun, and then October beginning all the companies start coming to campus, and they will make you have wine, they will make you have expensive food, they will take you to awesome restaurants, all in the bid to impress you to apply to Bain rather than McKinsey, or apply to whatever. Or if you get an offer from say strategy and AT Kearney, which is what I had, then you choose one over the other and all that. So that is how the established thing works. And then the school will help set up the interviews, the school will tell you how to write your resume, the school will do interview preparation for you. There will be your friends who have worked in consulting before, they will help you prepare. There's the consulting club, there's the banking club, they will teach you how to hold a wine ka glass, how to it is extreme level of detail into which they will go. That is the established recruiting, which is on campus. The other way is off campus recruiting, which is self-driven. Like the school has resources, but they are not going to reach out to you and say कि अरे ये एक company है यहाँ पे उसमें apply करो. You will have to go to the counselor and tell them your story, and like let's say for example you want to do venture capital in Israel in AI in healthcare, right? अब मतलब वो तो probability बहुत ही कम है that company is going to come to campus to listen to you or to meet you and all. So the school will help you identify who are the alumni in Israel first of all. Then they're going to see अच्छा इन alumni में से healthcare में कितने लोग हैं, tech में कितने लोग हैं, and then you will have to write an email to them asking for a connection, asking for a job and all of that. The school will support you, but it is a self-driven kind of process. मतलब वो ऐसा नहीं है कि तुम मतलब literally बहती गंगा में हाथ नहीं धो पाते, whereas established में तुम धो लेते. So that is how the placement works, and by and large, even if you go to a top 10 school in the US or even in the world, there is very low probability that you don't have a job. People who don't have jobs are people who have rejected enough jobs to then not have a job. So if you want to do venture capital in Israel, in AI, in healthcare, and that company is not recruiting, then you can't blame the school कि यार मैं तो Wharton आया और मेरे को job नहीं मिली, right? So that is one of the that's how recruiting by and large works.
So and how about the internship part?
Sorry, Orzuma.
Right.
One point I would need to like to make related to Wharton very specifically, given what Mr. Trump is up to nowadays. So I'm assuming most of the participants or even all are currently in India, right?
Yeah.
And if you want to work in the US post MBA, then typically after an MBA you get a 1-year period that is called a OPT period, in which you can basically work anywhere in the US. After that you need a visa that is called H1B. Now that H1B is a lottery. So it is literally, there is like a 35-40% probability and तुम्हारा नाम lottery में से निकाला जाता है. And if you get it, you get it. If you don't, the company will shift you to London or Dubai or India or Singapore and then try to figure out how to get you back and all that. At Wharton, and this is a huge differentiator from Stanford and HBS, Wharton has majors. Stanford and HBS don't have majors.
Yeah.
Stanford and HBS give a general management
MBA.
degree.
Yeah.
Whereas Wharton if you do a major in statistics or decision sciences or something like that, then you come under a category of people that is called STEM. So I think it's science,
technology, engineering, and math.
education, medicine.
No. Science, technology, engineering, and math.
Science, technology, engineering, and math.
Yeah.
So, which is called a STEM major. And if you do a STEM major, then that 1 year wala period, जिसमें कि तुम एक बार H1B apply कर सकते हो, you get a 3-year period instead. And because of that gives a huge advantage to any international person who goes to Wharton. Because you can do a major in statistics or something, ठीक है, मतलब it will be extremely hard and तुम्हें काफी पढ़ाई करनी पड़ती है. But in exchange, you get the freedom to work for 3 years as opposed to 1 year. So that is something I just wanted to put out there. We've realized this to be a strange kind of benefit of going to Wharton.
Right. So the 3 majors which come under the STEM designation are statistics, actuarial science, and business analytics. So these 3 majors, if you do in the one of those, not necessarily all 3. If you major in one of these, then your MBA gets a STEM designation. So your OPT period becomes 36 months, instead of 12 months. So this is a new addition, new thing that Wharton added, I think with the last MBA program, basically last MBA class. So that is another advantage. And if anybody is ever worried, but if you're Wharton MBA, and I would not worry that much about the HBA, because if it's moving to a merit based process, nothing like the Wharton MBA to prove that you are
right. I would say that it's a thing that's a little bit far
of course,
away, but,
of course.
मतलब मेरा फर्ज बनता है.
Right, no, I get that. So this Jishnu has this interesting question that you talked about, like video you talked about the positives of the university culture of the USB school. So he wants to know, are there any drawbacks of US business schools? Anything that you think that you missed out on?
And I am assuming, Jishnu, this question is more like if you're thinking US versus India or US versus Europe or Singapore and all. I think 1 or 2 clear drawbacks are, so there is definitely the visa drawback. Whether you like it or not, there is only a 40% chance that you get to work in the US beyond 1 year if you go to like any business school, right? Whereas if you go to say LBS, or I think the way UK visa works is much better, or you can go to Dubai and all that. There is also another drawback that it is a little bit more expensive, or significantly more expensive than doing an MBA anywhere else, right? Although that is a short-term kind of thing, but it does become significant. Thirdly, there is just overload, right? It sounds amazing to have, for example, Harvard University or University of Pennsylvania or Stanford University or whatever backing associated with your MBA. But then if you go out and explore things there, you are missing things out here. So it's like a compromise that you have to make. So people can get overburdened by that. So that is another thing. Distance is a huge thing. If you have, let's say, a family that might require you to come immediately to India at short notice, then obviously being in Singapore is a much better and more convenient thing than being in the US. If you are, so you need to take these personal decisions into factor as well. Plus the US, I think Kellogg has one, but other than that, there is not really a 1-year MBA. Whereas, if you are a pure play career switcher, I have been working at HUL for 4 years, now I want to move to consulting, and that is the only thing I want, and I have made up my mind, then maybe it is better to go to INSEAD for 1 year, spend less money and move to consulting, right? So it comes down to personal choices.
Right. So there's some questions around applying. So for Sneha and Sneha's question is, and DK, same question. Is there any difference between applying in round 1 over round 2, in terms of chances of admission and scholarships, etc.?
See, so and again, this is all second-hand knowledge, and actually some of it is directly from the admissions people as well. Do application rounds affect student aid? I don't think so. I would
Yeah.
be shocked if it does.
Yeah.
Which is the ideal round to apply in? Now, this is a very, very tricky question here. Simple reason is there are two schools of thought. One school of thought says that apply in round one, because then if you don't get in someplace in round one, then you can apply in round two. Other school of thought says that everybody thinks of the first school of thought, so apply in the second round. so, so my advice typically is to see, you can't apply. I don't think one can apply to more than 5 schools in one round, especially if you are doing it along with work. So my advice typically is that you apply to 3 or 4 of your dream schools in round one, and apply to 1 or 2 safety schools in round one, and then based on whether you get in or don't get in,
Yeah.
move to take a call on round two.
Yeah.
I would not link it to probability and this and that, because every time you meet an admissions person at school, they will say ki yaar, if we have to take somebody, we will take them. It doesn't matter if they are 1 or 2 or anywhere in between.
Right.
So if you have time, like, don't delay applying in round instead of applying in round one, you apply in round 2, because that's just stupid. You have an opportunity to apply, but you're not applying because of hearsay. So, but do keep some safety school in hand, so that, and also it depends on whether you are open to the idea of reapplying next year or not. Now there might be several people who are applying with 3 years of work experience. Now you can do 3 years, or you can do 4 years, you can even do 5 years. So 3 years walon mein to you can always apply next year, unless there's some change in your life that is good enough. So you need to take all these things into consideration.
Actually, the Wharton website clearly says that in terms of giving scholarships or something, so there's round 1 and round 2 applicants get equal consideration. So I think Sneha, that your scholarship or aid wise is not a problem whether you apply in round 1 and round 2. So in our experience also, what we have seen is that round 1 and round 2 students, their chances of admissions are not that drastically different, but round 3 makes a difference, because for international students round 3 becomes a little late, so maybe not round 3. There is another point of view also that I have seen students do that. They submit a very rushed application just to meet the round 1 deadline. Their GMAT scores are not good, the essays are not well formed, the CV does not look good. So you take your time and apply in round 2. If you have to decide between submitting a rushed application in round 1 versus a good, strong, well thought out application in round 2, go with round 2. Your application should never ever be rushed. Sitting down to write your essays 2 days before the application deadline, not a good idea at all. So Sneha has the second question, that the website does not talk about group discussion, but Vidur mentioned the group discussion part of the interview. So were you talking about the interview, or were you talking about the class participation in the MBA?
No, so that I'm just looking at this thing. So I'm posting the link here. It does clearly talk about it, but I haven't read it. But basically, this is for the interview here. So once you apply and you are called for an interview, it is typically either in Delhi or Bombay or both. Then, as part of the interview, it's a 2-step process. First, there will be 6 people who are put into a room and told to discuss something. And then there is and this is for, I think, some 40 minutes or something. And then following that, there is a 10 to 15 minute one-on-one interview with the admissions person.
Right.
So that's basically how it works.
Right. So this was not there. This is. This won't be there if you opt for a Skype interview or something. But in person.
No, there is. I don't think there is a choice of Skype interview.
Actually, some of our students, especially ones who are not in the country at the moment, they have been given the option of Skype interviews. So last year we had a couple of students who were in the
Okay,
merchant navy or
really?
something. So if you're not in the country at that
Then that
moment,
is obviously.
yeah. So then in that case, but I think all
But
of you,
I would still say, even if it means thoda sa fight maar ke, like I know folks who went from like Kenya to Dubai to interview, and
yeah. It was always advisable, of
you
course.
know, Mongolia to Singapore and stuff like that.
Yeah. So it's always advisable to have to be there physically. So okay, Ritik's question is: do you have any advice on the application? I think he already talked about one point that you should have, that Wharton is it's very focused on your quantitative ability or your decision making ability. So if you have taken some math, science type of courses, you should talk about that. Plus, if you have your job, if it entails looking at data and then taking decisions based on that, then you should bring that out as well. I think that's one point that Vidur has already mentioned. So in addition to that, do you have any other things that they can showcase to make their application essays have more impact?
Yeah, I think just stick to the basics. Don't sound arrogant. I have read several people's essays where while you might not be consciously writing in a way that you sound arrogant. So the problem with us Desi people is we are not very good at talking about ourselves.
Yeah.
So हमें ना समझ नहीं आती कि how do I write that I did something awesome without actually saying that I did something awesome. So that is one just generic thing, and this is not Wharton specific or anything, but don't underplay your achievements, but at the same time don't make it sound like कि मैंने तो सब कुछ कर ही लिया है. So because the person is going to think यार you already achieved so much, what do you
Yeah.
want to do the MBA for, छोड़ो.
Right.
So,
Right.
and also like don't lie.
Yeah.
Please don't lie, because these guys, their core competence is to pick up lies.
Yes.
They will correlate the hell out of things. They will see, if you've written that I met or like I am the president of India, and then if you don't mention it in your interview that you are the president of India, then they will know कि यार ये कुछ तो झोल है. So don't lie, don't be arrogant, write about data-driven stuff. Stick to the word limit. I think you can go 5 to 7% over, but don't go beyond that, because it just shows disrespect. One of my very good friends who's going to Wharton this year applied last year because she took advice from the wrong people, and that person was actually a PhD from UPenn, and she took advice from him, and he told her कि it's fine to send in a 2-page essay. So not a essay, sorry, 2-page resume. Whereas it very clearly says the resume should be 1 page and all
Yeah,
that.
right.
So she applied with a 2-page resume. Obviously, the school is going to think यार ये इतनी basic सी instruction नहीं follow कर सकती.
Yeah.
And this year, then she's actually going to Wharton because she did stuff properly. So these are it's very, very basic, and be very truthful, be very upfront. Don't underplay, but don't make it sound like you've already achieved everything there was.
Right. And also, like I mean, we see a lot of essays every year, so we feel that when you are writing your essays, for instance, your job profile, your industry, so students tend to write a lot of language that is specific to that industry, that like so then then if you read that, when you write your essay, just make somebody else who does not know industry, make that person read that essay. If he is also impressed, or if your message is coming through, then it's a good essay. Don't write stuff that only people from your industry will understand. Software engineers especially, I see them talking about projects and using a lot of those anagrams and short forms that I mean, the admission committee, you can't expect them to know all the details of your industry. So write essays, simple language, don't assume that your admission committee would know everything about your work profile and industry. Don't use language that is specific to your work profile. That's one very very basic piece of advice. Next is that as this is a very important point, that thanks for bringing it up, Vidu, that that the when you go over the word limit, if they want a 500 word essay and you are writing a 600 word, you may not even imagine, but the business school is interpreting as your inability to follow instructions, understand and follow instructions. So you don't want to do that. Just stick to the word limit. If they want a one, and it's not just Wharton, it's any business school basically. If they want a one page CV, you give a one page CV. When you're giving them 2-page 3-page CV, then it's like, okay, they can't even follow the given prescribed format. So small things. I think in India we are not that, we are pretty lax about rules. We go with a chalta hai attitude, but when we apply to top USB schools, so the chalta hai attitude doesn't work. You have to follow the instructions properly. And another thing,
even India, maybe I am pretty sure if you applying to IIM Ahmedabad or any place, if you're even ISB, NM, SPJ, and any of these places, if you're applying, if you don't respect the question that they've asked, naturally their first response is going to be, "Yaar, itne aur log hain jinhone itni bike mari hai."
No, but the Indian B schools, on the applications itself, they will auto truncate. So so you enter and they know, so they have put that measure in place. So and another thing is, after you have written the, let's say, 3-4 essays for the business school and the CV, read them once as a whole deal. So very often you will probably write essays individually, and there is probably a 7 to 10 days gap between your 2-3 essays. But when you finally were about to submit it, read them as one entire package. Whatever you are saying in one essay should not contradict or should not be out of sync. As Vidur said, the business schools are extremely good at correlating. They read between the lines with microscopes, right? So you have to be extremely careful that your CV, your essays, they all have to be in sync. So yeah, so just it's
also,
that
one general other advice that I generally give about essays. Sorry, I missed out on this, and I think it's fairly important, is to be very very specific, right? Like for example, in my case, I can at one point, I can write that I was, like at Mahajin Imaging, I was responsible for growing the company, and it grew very rapidly, or something like that. The other is to add some color, that I was responsible for growing the company, and I took it from 100 rupees per annum to 150 rupees per annum over a 3-year period, using something, using the following methodologies. Because the thing is that when you read your essay, it should be your essay, right? It cannot be that anybody else in your company can copy paste that essay and it applies to them as well. So it has to be extremely specific. What did you do? Like, I was a consultant at McKinsey. Badi achhi baat hai. What did you do? I gave advice to my clients. Badi achhi baat hai. That is what everybody at McKinsey does, right? But what did you specifically do? So just ensure you write about that, because that is what makes it real, right? Anybody can write that they did a good job at work. Like, everybody does a good job at work. But what made it good? You need to just focus a little bit on that, because that's when the color comes through.
So Sneha has this follow-up question on the group discussion part, that are the topics for the group discussions, are they case studies, or what are the themes of the topics?
Yeah, Sneha, you'll be able to find a million discussions on this online. So it's typically just they give a completely random prompt and they urge the group to come to consensus.
Yeah.
So the most recent one, I think, was you have to organize a conference. What conference should it be? Or it will be completely generic. What they are trying to see is whether you are a nice person or not. Right? Indian B school group discussions are generally, the person who wins is the person who was able to convince other people that their idea was the best.
Yeah.
At Wharton, and this flows into Sarang's question, it is more about opening up your mind, getting in everybody else's viewpoint, and then coming to a consensus that everybody likes. So That is what the group discussion is all about. Sneha, you will find like a million posts on it across the internet.
Sarang's question is, what are the core values of Wharton other than the focus on quant, as you mentioned?
So I don't want you to interpret focus on quant
As a
focus
core
on
value.
mathematics.
Right.
It is a focus on data. Like, right, if I am saying that Sarang has a 90% probability of getting into Wharton, it should not be based on my gut instinct. It should be based on tangible, measurable facts. So that is one definite thing. Other than that, they are trying to move away from that. I think they now successfully have moved away from that extremely quanti and a pura financial Wall Street type look and feel. Talk about collaborative stuff you did. Like when somebody reads your essay, it should be, yeah, this is a fun guy. I would like to know this person more. And so collaboration is definitely something you should talk about. I think this year's essay specifically asks about collaborative, how you whatever contribute to the collaborative culture and all that. So I think that itself talks about what the core values are. Right?
So, and you would Sarang, if you go on the Wharton website, they specify what their core values are, but then again they are like most business schools, their core values are similar, so but if you read read a lot of the pages and lot of the student profiles, you'll be able to draw your own interpretations. So Rajat's question is, what is the average age of the class at Wharton?
26.594.
But that's average. Please stay focused on the word average, right? So I mean, you can be 22 and get admission, and you can be 26.59 whatever and not get admission, right? So please stay focused on that word average, so you have to be, it does not mean that you will not get admission purely because you are 23 years old, or you will not get admission because you are 32 years old. It does not mean anything, so I would not be that strongly focused on the averages, Right. So we'll take one more question. We are almost out of time. I would like to stick to the time, so let's take a question. One last parting question. Anybody? So while people are thinking about the questions, so I have one for you, Vidur. So when you entered the MBA program of Wharton, you entered with certain expectations. You wanted something out of the MBA, and then after you were done with the MBA, so were those expectations met?
Absolutely. In fact, I think they were exceeded by at least 10x. Simply because I didn't really know what to expect. I came from a medical background, like I said, like 2012. I didn't even know Wharton existed and stuff like that. So that was maybe one of the reasons. Now, see, it comes down to I have friends, very close friends, who were not that impressed, right? These are guys who are making 1 crore rupees per annum before the MBA. They have to do the MBA just to make sure that they keep growing in their field of choice, which is private equity. Nobody else pays you that much. So for them it was like, yaar, kya hai? Everybody is just saying the same stuff, and this is okay. Why are people so stupid? This that. Whereas it depends on the kind of mindset that you go in with. But I was totally blown away. First day of class, we were given there's like this leadership exercise where I think it's a scene from this movie Braveheart, where he's there's the main character. I'm getting
Mel Gibson.
Russell Crowe. Mel Gibson. Yes, he's like on a horse and he's motivating people, and something happens. And we were told to write down a list of things that Mel Gibson did to that made him a good leader. And I had a list of like 15 things, and I was very confident that I was the only person in that room who had seen those 15 things, or at least 5 out of those 15 things. And then, jab tak meri bari aayi, I had crossed out all the 15. And that was my, like, you know, eureka moment that, oh shit, you know, there are absolutely brilliant people in this world that I did not know existed. And that's when, you know, you start realizing that it's better to learn from other people and just, you know, grow as an individual than, you know, stay in your own microcosm of things. So all in all, like, I think you guys should just apply. Stop thinking about what's going to happen after applying. First apply, वो बाद में देखी जाएगी यार. वो that is the school's job to judge whether you will get in or not. It's not your job.
And the business school's essays are so, it would require you to do so much self introspection that you would actually, in the application process itself, you will discover a lot of things about yourself. And those things might help you further decide which business schools, you know, fit you, or you fit into which business school. You know, it has to be a two-way process, of course, you know. So so I don't see any questions, so that means we were able to answer all the questions. So which is always a good thing. So thank you, Vidur, for taking out time on a weekend